striking terms.
All right, thanks for joining me here. It is September the 5th, 2018, and this is your what's supposed to be daily Flat Earth report. I'm trying to keep these up. Of course, being booted off YouTube every other day doesn't help, so I'm pretty much moving it to Facebook, and then I'll just upload it there later. This is the news aggregator I've been using for the last couple of years, the flatearthreport.com. Flat Earth inoculates you from lie disease. And the idea here is just to aggregate all the news and make sure that you are the best informed flat earther on your block. Generally, what comes up here are just the popular headlines that just express what appears to be the mainstream media's inability to see past the very, very surface of this thing. I mean, this is bad. They're so stuck at the very basic, flat versus round. Doesn't water flow off the edge? They never really get into the nuance. But this article here is somewhat favorable, and this is actually from the New Yorker. It came out a few months back, but it's worth looking at. Looking for life on a flat Earth. What the movement says about science, solace, and how a theory becomes truth. Okay, so this starts off with a discussion about Mad Mike Hughes and his rocket launch. It talks about the issues he had getting it launched with the Bureau of Land Management. And anyway, it talks about when it finally happened. It says when he finally made it go, it says stuff was leaking, bolts needed tightening, but around 3 o'clock with no countdown, he blasted off from his portable ramp attached to a motorhome he bought through Craigslist and soared to nearly 1,900 feet and then parachuted gently back to Earth. It says for all that, he might have attracted little media attention were it not for his outspoken belief that the world is flat. As he put it, do I believe the Earth is shaped like a frisbee? I believe it is. Do I know for sure? No. That's why I want to go into space. So this little bit of agnosticism, this little bit of, well, I don't trust what the experts have told me, I need to see for myself. This is what they find so problematic. Like, we're not supposed to need independent media, we're supposed to trust Fox. We shouldn't need independent investigation. We have experts everywhere. Aren't there pictures up there, and aren't there satellites taking pictures of the Earth every day? These are things people just assume to be true. And what you find out when you look into this is that, no, it's not true. There are no pictures of the spinning. There's no video of the Earth as a ball spinning. There aren't any. There are none. Never has been. What we get are, carefully contrived composites, CGI renderings, but we don't actually get to see the real thing. And you wouldn't know that if you hadn't looked for it. It goes on to say, Hughes converted fairly recently. In 2017, he called in to the Infinite Plane Society, a live stream YouTube channel that discusses Earth's flatness and other matters. Soon after, the Daily Plane, news, media, and science in a post-globe reality, sponsored a GoFundMe that raised more than $7,500 on Hughes' behalf, enabling him to make the Mojave jump with the words, research, flat Earth, emblazoned on his racket. Now, to be clear, this is something the media couldn't get. And in fact, it's strange. A lot of people, even on YouTube, don't get this. He was never trying to prove the Earth was flat with a 2,000-foot high jump. I mean, obviously, you could go up on a building or take a flight. In fact, there was a video that just came out a few days ago where there's a guy in an airplane 31,000 feet up using infrared, making visual contact with peaks in Colorado 500 miles away. Now, 31,000 feet, there's no curve, obviously. We have footage from 120,000 feet, flat. Flat horizon all around. But Seeing a mountaintop from 500 miles, that should right there nail in the coffin. Even if it's not flat, it's got to be 10 times bigger than what they say, because you shouldn't be able to see it even from 31,000 feet. From that height, if you're looking at an object 500 miles away, it's actually going to be down, like you'd be looking at the side of the damn thing. But no, you see the tip of the peak. Um, so it goes on to say he didn't expect his flight to demonstrate flatness, and he doesn't like the way the mainstream media has portrayed things. He said this flight was just practice. His flat Earth mission will come in time when he launches from a balloon, a raccoon. So the balloon carries him up 20 miles up past the densest part of the atmosphere, and he launches from there. To go perhaps 75 miles up where the splendor of our disk will be evident beyond dispute. Now, he says 62 miles, that's the Kármán line, although recently NASA dropped it to 50 miles. So the sky fell 12 feet, or 12 miles. The sky is 50 miles up now. That's where space begins. I don't know why they did that. Maybe it's, who knows? They have it's so, everything is so arbitrary. You know, you talk to people about their model and they're like, well, the sun is 93 million miles away. Was it always? The sky is 62 miles up before it becomes space. Was it always? I have so many questions, for people who hold on to the model they were presented with, because you can't claim to have an absolute truth and then it changes every few months and you change with it. At some point, you have to recognize that you don't have a complete model. It goes on to say, if you're only just now waking up to the 21st century, you should know that according to a growing number of people, what we've been taught about our Earth is a lie. It's not a planet, it's flat. We know this because hundreds of YouTube videos describe the cover-up. We know because, and anyway, it goes on a clear, cool day in southwestern Michigan, we can see the Chicago skyline from 50 miles away, an impossibility if the Earth were curved. We know because Kyrie Irving told us it's flat. He says, it's right in our faces. They lie to us. Goes on to say, we know because a day and a year after Donald Trump was elected president. See, they have to throw that in there because for years, before anyone was actually in front of this idea saying, I think the Earth is flat, the Democrats have been saying for years, if you don't believe in global warming, you're a flat earther. So finally we've caught up to where that no longer hurts. In fact, if the people who recognize that global warming is a hoax just looked a little closer, they would see that not only is the satellite data telling them that the ice caps are melting, this data coming from NASA, all fake. Not only can you not trust Al Gore's Goresat about the weather, but it's not just that they inflated the temperatures or exaggerated certain things or ignored certain things that might contradict that. Because what they do is they present evidence that supports their narrative and they filter out counterfactual evidence. But what if the people who recognize that global warming is a massive hoax go one step further and recognize that that even the pictures are fake? It's not just the numbers, not just the temperatures. The imagery is fake. It's all fake. There's no satellites in outer space keeping track of the melting ice caps. And this is kind of an interesting point too. I've been saying for a while that if we could only get the people who recognize the global warming hoax to look at flat Earth, they'd be the first ones to see it because they've already learned that you cannot trust government scientists. Fake science. We have fake news, which is state-controlled media. Well, we have fake science, state-controlled science. So interestingly enough, yesterday, Vice.com put out an article where they asked the Flat Earth Society, do you believe in global warming? And they said, oh, it would be irresponsible to ignore the overwhelming evidence. So the Flat Earth Society just outed themselves as a sock puppet for NASA because you cannot cite overwhelming evidence for global warming and then ignore the same agencies that give you the spinning ball and everything else. The information's coming from the same source. Anybody who believes in global warming is literally that, a believer. You're not a knower. You don't know it to be warming. You believe it. You believe it because you were told by Al Gore. And if you believe it and you think the Earth is flat, well, then you have a lot of explaining to do. Because then, at that point, it makes me wonder, are you just ignorant of the political and economic ramifications of the existence of global warming. I mean, the thing is obviously a stalking horse for the growth of global government, always has been. Envirostatism, eco-fascism, watermelon Marxism, green on the outside, red on the inside. We know what it's about. There's no reason to believe in it. I'm a non-believer. This is one of the tricks that they've been playing on us forever. It's the false choices, the Hegelian dialectics, like theists and atheists. Well, what about those who don't go along with the atheists because they're all heliocentrists, and who don't go along with the mainstream religions, or religion at all? What about the non-believers? They never hear our voices. And so I'm seeing a lot of contrived, artificial debates. There is no debate between flat earth and globe. The only one you see is actually a debate between the globe and enclosed creationism. The third alternative, the non-believer, the ones who don't believe the scientists that give you the globe, and the ones who don't believe the religions that give you the domed, enclosed creationist model. What about the non-believers? The ones open to infinite possibilities. Well, that's us. And it's only us. Infinite Plane Society. If you're not a member, go to infiniteplanesociety.com and get on board, because we are the only above ground organization gathered around the idea that the Earth's not a spinning ball, but we, unlike the Flat Earth Society, we don't have a religious agenda, and we're post-media. Other groups gathered around the Flat Earth thing, or the idea that the Earth's not spinning, or that it's possibly flat, whatever it is, anything alternative to the heliocentric model. There are many people gathering around these ideas, but there aren't any who are gathered around these ideas who are also, and this is even more important, post-green screen. If you're not capable of looking back and recognizing you can't trust the history any more than you can trust the mainstream media, that you can't trust the so-called holy books, then you're still behind the curve. If you're a flat Earth believer and you think there's a dome, you're a blue pillar. The biblical literalists who have given you the domed model are in fact idolaters. Biblical literalism is idolatry. The Bible is the idol. And what's worse about this is that the biblical literalism required to give you a domed enclosed model also reaches outside of the Bible to extra apocryphal books, extra canonical books like the Book of Enoch. Well, how can you say that the Bible is the inerrant Word of God? Complete, nothing taken away, nothing added, this is it, God wrote this. But then you refer to extra canonical texts. It's hypocritical. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, look, D. Marble got a quote here. Look around, he says, Daryl, you'll notice there's not a single tinfoil hat. We are normal people that have an abnormal perspective. Interesting. Here's what we are. We are reality perceivers. You have, I'm seeing two classes of people here, two categories, perceivers and augmenters. See, we're all perceivers, but then you have some who also augment what they know to be true, what they can perceive, with beliefs. So you're not a flat earther. They're spinning ballers. They're augmenting a flat stationary plane with this model that tells you that you're actually spinning and that the surface is curved. They're adding that. You can't perceive it. You can't prove it. The burden of proof has not been presented. Similarly, those of you who believe in a domed enclosure, for whatever reason, you're also perceiving the same reality as our spinning ball friends and as we on the Infinite Plane Society, but you're augmenting